The first thing you noticed at Vesper Gate was the sound. Space wasn't silent here. The ring of broken moons around the trinary stars held a thin exosphere, and every ship that burned through it made the wreckage sing, a low metallic hum that trembled in your bones. Admiral Mara Kade stood on the forward gallery of the UEF flagship Second Dawn and watched 1,000 alien hulls slip from shadow. Spined barges of the kiln-born Crix, opal ellipses of the Loom, needle barges of the Harder, each bearing old grudges and fresh banners. They had come to stop humanity's march across the Perseid Spur. "We're late to our own intervention," said Commander Jules Pan, leaning on the rail. "Coalition count is up to 9 species, maybe 10. Their channels are a traffic jam." Mara's reflection in the glass looked older than she felt. Ash-brown hair braided tight, eyes ringed by nights of planning instead of sleep. "They wanted a place that felt like a wall," she said, "so they chose a graveyard with 3 suns." Her display bloomed with telemetry. Coalition flagship, Rylot of Dust, commanded by a diplomat named Char Ichth, serene, chitinous, rumored to play a bone harp at funerals. Behind him, the exception. Kha'Rai warclans, the dragonborn, scaled giants who called themselves undefeated. Their lead dreadnought, Blood of Morning, carried Warlord Karves, the Unbroken. Everything about the Kha'Rai design advertised teeth, pronged rams, serrated fins, ritual scars etched across armor. "They chose the right wall," Jules said. "Question is, do they know what we're building behind it?" Mara didn't answer. She touched the rail, feeling the faint vibration of the Second Dawn's core. The singing heart of a pressure well, a human invention that bent tides as easily as men once bent wire. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, steady. "Open the channels, Jules. We'll try words first." The parley took place aboard a neutral listening platform called the Oratorio, a lacework of antennae and domes tethered to moonshards by cables like cello strings. Inside, the air smelled faintly of ozone and old incense. Delegates stood beneath a ceiling that resembled the inside of a seashell, whirled, iridescent, soft with light. Human Marines waited at the periphery in unsealed helmets, faces visible, weapons slung low. A posture of ease that somehow felt more confident than any parade. Char Ichth arrived on a cushion of hovering pollen and bowed with 4 limbs. "Admiral Kade," he chittered through the translator. "You bring many ships for a conversation." "I brought enough," Mara said. "You brought more. Our number reflects our fear." The diplomat's compound eyes tilted toward the window, where the human armada glimmered like frost. "The spur burns with your beacons. We seek to stop your fire from touching our roots." Warlord Karves did not bother with ceremony. He ducked through the hatch like a living siege ram and laughed, a deep thunder in his barrel chest. "I expected taller humans. The legends paint you as giants who eat planets like fruit." "We prefer stew," Jules murmured behind Mara. "Takes longer, tastes better." Karves grinned with too many teeth. "At last, humor! That makes this simple. Turn your fleets around. Return to your blue cradle. Leave what is not yours." Mara held his gaze. "Everything is ours and also not ours. The stars don't sign deeds. We build beacons and corridors so all may travel without fear. If you return home now, we'll escort you. No spoils, no humiliation. We'll mark your borders as inviolate." "And if we do not?" Karves asked. Mara thought of the humming ring and the bruised scars of dead moons. "Then we'll make the sky very quiet, very fast." The Coalition wanted proof. Of course they did. Their scouts had seen human war miracles from a distance. Spindles that carved comets, siege fields that slowed light, ships that could stop and start inertia like a switch. But belief is stubborn. So Char-Ikt asked for a demonstration. And Karves, with theatrical boredom, seconded the motion. They chose an empty swatch of ring. Human corvettes floated into the kill box, small, matte, harmless-looking. Across them, harder needle ships unfolded launchers like origami. The test round blinked, then 10, then 100. A cloud of fusion darts meant to turn any warm thing into mist. "Admiral?" Jules asked. "Let them fire." Mara's fingers moved, and the second dawn sang deeper. The pressure well nested inside the flagship, coupled to the second dawn's gravity choir. 200 field engineers who used their bodies as tuning forks and their breath as metronomes. At her signal, the choir exhaled on the beat. The darts blossomed, then froze mid-flight. Not a slow freeze, an absolute stillness, like a pause button for physics. Beyond the windows, a cloud of lethal needles hung in a ballet of perfect failure. A comet drifted through them. Dust gathered on their noses. "That," Mara said, "is the mercy net. If we cast it, no weapon you fire can finish its thought." Char-Ikt murmured something that translated to a devastating chord. Karves's ruff flattened. "Tricks," he spat. "Chains and illusions." He flicked a wrist. Several harder captains, eager to impress, launched a second salvo without waiting. Mara didn't lift her hand. The second wave failed too. Jules blew out a breath. "It's like catching rain in a spider web." "Rain doesn't think," Mara said. "This does." It should have ended there, with awkward gratitude and a big relieved meal, but wars seldom respect rehearsal. A Krix fireship, scarred by old human patrols, misread a fleet ping as an attack order and lunged. Its scabbed hull split like a seed, spilling a river of oxygen and a seraph of controlled plasma straight for the oratorio. "Contact! Hot!" Jules barked. "Hold!" Mara's voice didn't rise. The choir took the cue, bent the river as if it were a ribbon, and wound it into a harmless spiral that burned blue, and then out. The fireship kept coming. Someone aboard had cut safeties and jammed the throttle forward. "Disable them," Mara ordered. Stiletto fine beams shot from human pickets, not to kill, but to shear. They trimmed the Krix ship like gardeners, slicing off thrusters and flensing weapons. It came apart in glittering sheets. One fragment pinwheeled toward the oratorio's docking stem. A loom corvette swung wide to intercept, caught the fragment with its own hull, and spun into the ring. The domed ceiling above the delegates shook. Dust drifted like incense ash. Char-Ikt covered his mandibles in a gesture of mourning. Karves's pupils tightened to knife points. "You play gentle," he said, voice suddenly quiet. "But death follows your music anyway." Mara felt the line they were walking, thin as hair. "We didn't start that note," she replied. "But we'll own it. I'll send crew and compensation to Loom families. We'll rebuild what our mess just broke." "And if the mess is us?" Karves asked. His claws flexed. "If we are the part that breaks against your wall, then I'll give you the same choice I give everyone," Mara said. "Go home. Live. Make stories. Or try to make a grave of me and learn how heavy my stones are." "Night," if you could call the shadow of a trinary system night, fell across the oratorio as the suns slipped behind the ring. Char-Ik agreed to a private walk across the transparent rim bridge. Below, the ring's wreckage glowed faintly with starlight, like a field of ghosts. "My people think men are hungry," the diplomat said. "Hungry the way winter is hungry." Mara tapped the bridge with her knuckles. It sang a small, lonely note. "We are, but not for land. This, what you call expansion, is a wall we're building. A lighthouse chain. A storm break." Char-Ik's antennae tilted. "Against what tide?" Mara pulled up a star map. Red embered marks spread across the spur. Not battles won, but systems gone dark. "We call it the Silence," she said. "An event front that erases information. Not kill, not burn. Erase. Songs end where it passes. Holes in memory. We found it on the far side of Enoch's reach when it swallowed a probe. We've held it back with beacons, anchor arrays bound to the cores of our largest ships. But it's growing. We need to lay a linked chain to keep it from eating the lane you live in. And you did not tell us because sometimes frightened people break the tower they're meant to climb," Mara said. "And because this wall isn't pretty. We drive anchor stakes into real suns and ask them for more light than they should give. We pay for that heat in blood and metal." She paused. "We weren't sure you'd believe us before you saw it." Char-Ik stared at the dark marks. His translator clicked like teeth. "I believe you," he said at last, soft as foil. "But belief is not command. The warlord will not retreat from a feast with his teeth bare, even if the feast is poison." Then we changed the menu. Warlord Kha'Rai declared the old right. A trial of worlds. Winner takes all. The past called for total fleets battering until one went silent. The oratorio's charter forbade extermination on neutral ground, but the Kha'Rai didn't consider themselves bound by charters they hadn't signed. Mara offered something else. "Constraint duel," she said. "You bring your best line, I bring mine. We play for surrender, not death. You'll see the shape of the loss without paying the price. If you still want to keep bleeding afterward, we'll talk about how much sky I have to turn off to stop you." Kha'Rai laughed. "You think restraint is strength? I think restraint is harder than rage." Mara met his gaze. "I think it's what wins when you plan to be alive afterward." So they drew a boundary above the ring, a cubic arena tessellated with floating pylons. Tactical overlays pulsed to track who held space. Kha'Rai's cruisers entered in wedge, hulls painted with the victories of his fathers. The human line walked in like a curtain, corvettes tethered by invisible threads to the second dawn's well, destroyers station-keeping with the patience of stones. The duel unfolded like chess taped to a hurricane. Kha'Rai lunged with Reaper torpedoes that were poetry in metal. The Mercy Net turned that poem into a blank page. Human pickets cut engines from 3 cruisers with surgical beams that cauterized as they sliced, so nothing burst. Everything only quieted. A Kha'Rai boarding frigate surged. A human tender opened like a flower and closed around it, a soft prison of smart gel. The crowd of ships watching from the ring's shadow fell into a hush you could feel, like cold on the back of your neck. Finally, Mara showed him the unkindest kindness. She stole momentum. The well sang a new note, and every Kha'Rai hull drifted into stillness. Not because they were pinned, but because the universe around them forgot how to push. Even light seemed slower inside the box. Kha'Ves's voice, when it cracked through, sounded scraped. "Enough." "Then hear the rest," Mara said. "Go home now, all of you. We're turning this sector into a beacon field. If you stay, we'll either fold you out by hand or break you when the silence arrives sooner than expected." "Sooner?" Char Ikth asked, alarmed. Mara nodded. "We felt a jump in the deep background. I don't know why, but it's moving faster." They felt it first as a pressure in the ears no atmosphere could explain. Instruments stuttered, counters ran to null, and distant constellations winked like someone dimmed them with a thumb. The silence didn't look like a thing. It looked like less of everything. Even the singing debris fell quiet. "It's early," Jules said, voice thin. "We needed 3 more days to lay anchors. Then we spend what we have." Mara's hands flew. "Redeploy the line. All reactors to overburn. Choir, prepare to bind." Kha'Ves stood statue still, pupils gone wide, listening to nothing. "What sorcery eats a star?" he whispered. "Not sorcery," Mara said. "Entropy made greedy." The first tendrils reached the ring. They erased a drifting plaque of metal, and with it, the etched names of the miners who had died to cut it free. Char Ikth made a keening note and touched the air where the names had been. Kha'Ves roared and ordered his ships forward, scale plates bristling with stubborn fate. "We will meet it with teeth!" "You can't bite fog," Jules said, almost gentle. "Pull them back," Mara ordered. "We'll light the beacon gap." "The second dawn will anchor," Jules stared. "Admiral, our core can hold the well or the anchor, not both." "It will hold," she said. She added what he already knew, because honesty mattered when you asked men to walk with you into fire. "For a while, let me take the chair," Jules said, quiet and fierce. "You're the better diplomat." "You're the worse singer," Mara said, without humor. "I learned the binding hymns in the Sol Winter. You know the verse, I know the breath." Jules swallowed. "I hate when you're right." "Me too," she said, and smiled like a small dawn. The second dawn moved to the heart of the ring, and the choir stepped into their harnesses. Around their throats glowed bands that mapped pulse to field. Mara took her seat in the anchor cradle, a bowl of spun diamond full of threads that drank body heat and memory. Lights dimmed. The well groaned as if something heavy had sat down on the universe. "Final run-up," Jules called. "On your breath, Admiral." Char Ikth's voice came through, sanded smooth by grief. "Will it hurt?" "Yes," Mara said. "But it will matter." She lifted her hands. The choir inhaled as one. They exhaled into math. The anchor woke. A column of light stitched sky to stone. It wasn't a beam so much as a decision. Here, the universe behaves. The silence buckled like a shadow tripping over a curb. It pushed. The anchor pushed back. Every ship within sight felt a weight press its hulls flat. The oratorio rang, truly rang, like a bell. Kha'Ves's dreadnought dug in beside the second dawn, hulls sprouting braces like ribs. "We hold with you," the warlord growled. "We have never retreated. Today we learn how to stay. Welcome to the wall, Mara said, and fed the well more of herself. Memories unfurled. The warm tile of a kitchen in old Vancouver. The smell of the river at graduation. Her mother's hands full of flour. The first time she saw the second dawn rise like a ship-shaped sunrise. The anchor took all that and burned it into order. The silence shuddered and receded. It tried again, rolled like tide over stones, and couldn't find purchase. Across the ring, coalition ships turned to face home. Not in defeat, in understanding. Char Ikth played a soft chord that sounded like goodbye to a child who doesn't yet know the word. In the cradle, Mara felt the edges of herself fuzz. The anchor liked singers because they were good at dissolving into a note. She eased deeper into the bowl until breath and light were the same. "Jules," she said, "when it holds, cut the line. Take them out on the corridor. Keep building." "You'll come with us," Jules said. It wasn't a question. It was a wish, dressed as one. "I'll meet you at the next beacon," she lied. Because sometimes a lie is a bridge. On my mark. The universe's hum climbed. The second dawn shed paint in spiraling flecks. Carvis roared a hymn he'd learned as a hatchling, a lullaby about waking teeth. Char Ikth bowed until his antennae touched the floor. Mara gave them her last good breath. The anchor boomed. The silence folded back like a curtain. The corridor lit from Vesper Gate to the chartered boundary like pearls on a line. "Now," she said. Jules cut the link. The armada peeled away. The second dawn remained, a sun caught in a web of its own making. In the cradle, Mara sank like a stone in clear water until there was only light. Hours later, after the tide had passed and the beacon hummed steady, Carvis stood on the rim bridge and watched the second dawn glow. He put one clawed hand on the glass, a gentle giant. "We will teach our children that our first defeat was to a woman who made a wall and became it." Char Ikth's translator translated his sigh as rain on a drum. "Will your clans return home, warlord?" Carvis nodded. "We will train on the edge and send singers to your choir. We will learn to hold instead of bite." He hesitated, then glanced up. "Listen." Something in the beacon shifted, and a voice walked out of the light across the bridge of everyone's bones. It was small as a secret, and as clear as a sunrise. "Keep building," said Mara Kade. "I'm already there." The ring sang back,